Yo, you want to know a funny story about Jay and Ace of Spades, though?
Let's go. Come on.
It's crazy with Ace because growing up, I always knew like Puff and Hove and all of them.
Jay-Z, the hip-hop therapist who's changing lives through music. What's good, celebrity program TV family? Before we dive into this mind-blowing revelation about Jay-Z, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell because we're about to expose something that will completely change how you see HOV forever. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Picture this. You're going through the darkest period of your life, drowning in problems that seem impossible to solve, and suddenly you put on a Jay-Z track and everything clicks. The lyrics hit different, the wisdom cuts deep, and somehow you find the answers you've been searching for. Sound familiar? Well, you're not alone, and there's a reason why millions of people turn to Jay-Z's music when they need guidance, clarity, and hope. A$AP Rocky just dropped a bombshell that's sending shockwaves through the hip-hop community and beyond. In a recent interview with Elle magazine, Rocky made a statement so profound, so accurate, that it's forcing us all to reconsider what we think we know about Jay-Z's impact on culture and society. Rocky didn't just call Jay-Z a rapper, a mogul, or even a legend. He called him something much more powerful and significant. I think Jay-Z is a black therapist. Let that sink in for a moment. A black therapist. Not just any therapist, but specifically a black therapist. And if you understand the weight of that distinction, you know Rocky just articulated something that's been bubbling under the surface of hip-hop culture for decades. This isn't hyperbole, this isn't just respect between artists. This is a recognition of something much deeper and more transformative happening in our culture. Rocky elaborated on this groundbreaking observation by explaining how people constantly bring their problems to Jay-Z, seeking wisdom through his music, and finding solutions in his lyrics. People bring him their issues all the time, Rocky revealed, and if you've ever been a Jay-Z fan, you know exactly what he's talking about. From the story of OJ addressing financial literacy and generational wealth, to 444 diving deep into personal accountability and growth, Jay-Z has consistently delivered therapeutic insights wrapped in brilliant wordplay and infectious beats. But here's where it gets really interesting and where Rocky's perspective becomes even more fascinating. The context of this revelation came during a discussion about Rocky's upcoming psychological thriller, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, where he plays James, a motel superintendent who becomes an emotional outlet for Rose Byrne's character Linda, a therapist. Rocky admits he's playing a role that forces him to confront concepts he doesn't naturally gravitate toward, describing the entire film as an anxiety attack, and confessing his skeptical view of traditional therapy. Now don't hit that back button yet because Rocky's honesty about therapy is about to make Jay-Z's role as a cultural therapist even more significant. Rocky explained his perspective on traditional therapy with brutal honesty. My take on therapy is so bad, it's almost comical. I might get murdered for this, but I put therapists in the same category as like psychic readings. I look at it like, yo, what's the point of me telling you a story if you ain't got the same experiences? For a stranger to come at me about my business for an hour and then be like, okay, well, how did that make you feel? And right there, Rocky just explained why Jay-Z's form of therapy is so much more effective for so many people, especially in Black and brown communities where traditional therapy has historically been inaccessible, culturally disconnected, or stigmatized. When Jay-Z raps about growing up in Marcy projects, about hustling on street corners, about the psychological weight of poverty, about building wealth from nothing, about navigating predominantly white business spaces, about marriage struggles, about fatherhood, about legacy, he's speaking from lived experience that resonates with millions who share similar backgrounds and challenges. Make sure you're subscribed because we're about to break down exactly how Jay-Z has been functioning as a therapist through his music for over 2 decades, and the psychological techniques he's been using that professional therapists would recognize and applaud. This isn't just coincidence. This is intentional healing work disguised as entertainment. Think about Jay-Z's discography as a therapeutic journey. His early work dealt with trauma processing, the pain of street life, the psychological impact of poverty, the survival mechanisms developed in harsh environments. Albums like Reasonable Doubt and Volume 2 weren't just rap records. They were trauma narratives that helped listeners process their own difficult experiences by seeing them reflected and validated in Jay-Z's stories. Then came the wealth-building phase, where Jay-Z became a financial therapist, teaching through example and explicit instruction. The Blueprint series wasn't just about rap supremacy, it was literally providing blueprints for success, for thinking bigger, for believing in possibilities beyond immediate circumstances. Songs like Moment of Clarity offered cognitive behavioral therapy principles, examining thought patterns, challenging limiting beliefs, reframing negative situations as learning opportunities. But perhaps the most therapeutic Jay-Z has ever been was on 444, an album that functioned as a masterclass in accountability therapy, relationship counseling, and emotional intelligence. When Jay-Z admitted his infidelity, worked through his marriage issues publicly, examined his relationship with his mother, and addressed generational trauma, he wasn't just making music. He was demonstrating the therapeutic process of honest self-examination, taking responsibility for harm caused, and committing to growth and change. The title track, 444, alone could be studied in couples therapy courses as an example of how to take accountability, express genuine remorse, and commit to behavioral change. Song Cry showed men it's okay to be vulnerable and express emotion. Adness dealt with father abandonment issues that plague communities. Legacy addressed intergenerational wealth and breaking cycles of poverty. This isn't entertainment masquerading as therapy. This is therapy masquerading as entertainment. And here's what makes Jay-Z's therapeutic approach so revolutionary: accessibility and cultural competence. While traditional therapy might cost hundreds of dollars per session and require navigating systems that weren't designed with communities of color in mind, Jay-Z's therapy sessions are delivered through Spotify, Apple Music, and radio stations. His therapeutic insights are embedded in songs that bump in cars, at barbershops, at family gatherings, in spaces where Black and brown people naturally congregate and process life together. Don't forget to subscribe because we're about to reveal how other celebrities have been accessing Jay-Z's therapeutic services and the impact it's had on their careers and personal lives. Rocky's observation gains even more credibility when you consider how many other artists have credited Jay-Z with providing guidance, wisdom, and emotional support during critical moments in their careers and personal lives. From mentoring Drake through industry politics to counseling Kanye through creative differences, from supporting Beyoncé through individual and collaborative growth to advising countless other artists on business decisions, Jay-Z has been functioning as an informal therapist and life coach for the entertainment industry. The therapeutic relationship often involves helping clients reframe their narratives, develop coping strategies, build self-efficacy, and create actionable plans for positive change. Jay-Z's music and mentorship consistently demonstrate these therapeutic principles. He helps listeners reframe poverty as motivation, setbacks as setups for comebacks, criticism as fuel for improvement, and obstacles as opportunities to prove resilience. What makes Rocky's Black Therapist designation so specifically important is the cultural competence factor. Effective therapy requires understanding the client's cultural context, lived experiences, systemic challenges, and community dynamics. Jay-Z doesn't just understand these factors intellectually like an outside observer might. He's lived them, overcome them, and transformed them into wisdom that he shares through his art. Consider how Jay-Z addresses mental health stigma in Black communities through his music. Rather than directly confronting the shame and resistance around seeking help, which might create defensive reactions, he models vulnerability, emotional intelligence, and growth through his lyrics. He normalizes therapy concepts by wrapping them in familiar cultural packaging: storytelling, metaphor, rhythm, and community gathering around music. The psychological concept of wounded healer suggests that therapists who have experienced and worked through their own trauma are often most effective at helping others through similar struggles. Jay-Z embodies this principle perfectly. His early trauma from poverty, street life, father abandonment, and systemic racism became the raw material for healing wisdom that now helps millions of listeners process their own similar experiences. But let's talk about Rocky's timing with this revelation because it coincides with major personal developments in his own life. During the same Elle interview, Rocky discussed anticipating his third child with Rihanna, expressing hope for a girl. "I hope it's a girl. We're praying for a girl, and I feel like it's going to be." This pregnancy was so different from the other two. The vibes just speak for itself. I'm hoping for a girl, man. I need that. Life delivered exactly what Rocky hoped for when he and Rihanna welcomed their daughter Rocky Irish Mayers on September 13th, announced on September 24th with Rocky's emotional Instagram post. My lil ladies. The joy, gratitude, and emotional evolution Rocky's experiencing as a father of 3 children, including now his little ladies, might be influencing his deeper appreciation for the type of wisdom and guidance Jay-Z provides through his music. Fatherhood changes perspective, creates urgency around legacy and emotional intelligence, and often makes men more receptive to therapeutic insights, even when delivered unconventionally through hip-hop music. Rocky's recognition of Jay-Z as a black therapist might be his way of acknowledging the type of father, partner, and man he wants to become, using Jay-Z's musical therapy as a blueprint for that growth. Subscribe to Celebrity Program TV because we're approaching the conclusion of this revelation, and you need to understand why this changes everything about how we should view hip-hop's cultural impact and Jay-Z's true legacy. The implications of Rocky's observation extend far beyond hip-hop into broader conversations about mental health, cultural competence in therapeutic services, and the democratization of healing resources. If Jay-Z is functioning as a black therapist, reaching millions of people who might never access traditional therapy, what does that tell us about the gaps in our mental health system? What does it suggest about the untapped therapeutic potential of culturally competent artists and their platforms? This isn't diminishing the value of licensed mental health professionals. It's recognizing that healing happens in multiple forms and spaces, and sometimes the most effective therapeutic interventions come from unexpected sources. Jay-Z's music doesn't replace therapy, but for many people, it serves as an entry point to therapeutic thinking, emotional processing, and personal growth that might eventually lead them to seek additional professional support. Rocky's psychological thriller Highest to Lowest, now streaming on Apple TV+ and directed by Spike Lee, features an incredible cast including Denzel Washington, Jeffrey Wright, Ice Spice, and others. The film's exploration of psychological themes, combined with Rocky's real-life grappling with therapeutic concepts, creates an interesting parallel to his recognition of Jay-Z's therapeutic impact. The fact that Rocky can simultaneously express skepticism about traditional therapy while recognizing Jay-Z's therapeutic value highlights the complex relationship many people, particularly in communities of color, have with mental health resources. It's not necessarily rejection of the need for emotional support and guidance. It's often about finding culturally resonant, accessible, and trustworthy sources for that support. Jay-Z's evolution from street rapper to cultural therapist represents something profound about hip-hop's maturation and its potential as a vehicle for community healing. When the culture's most successful figure uses his platform to process trauma, model growth, teach financial literacy, demonstrate accountability, and normalize vulnerability, he's providing therapeutic services to communities that desperately need them. Celebrity Program TV family. This revelation about Jay-Z being a black therapist should fundamentally change how we understand his cultural impact and legacy. We're not just talking about record sales, Grammy Awards, or business ventures. We're talking about a man who has spent decades providing healing, wisdom, and hope to millions of people through the therapeutic power of music. Rocky's observation forces us to recognize that sometimes the most profound therapeutic work happens outside traditional clinical settings, delivered by wounded healers who transform their pain into purpose and share their growth journey with communities hungry for authentic guidance and hope. Make sure you're subscribed to Celebrity Program TV because we'll continue exploring how hip-hop artists are functioning as cultural therapists, community healers, and sources of wisdom for generations navigating trauma, growth, and transformation. Hit that notification bell. Share this video with someone who needs to understand Jay-Z's true impact, and let us know in the comments. How has Jay-Z's music served as therapy in your own life? We'll see you in the next video where we dive even deeper into the intersection of hip-hop and healing.